Hello and welcome to the Procurement Podcast, brought to you by BizClick and our sponsors for this series, Amazon Business. This is your go-to podcast for all things procurement. If you're ready to move from being a tactical buyer to a strategic leader, you're in the right place. Tune in and together we can build a better bottom line. I'm Aaron McMillan, editor of Procurement Magazine and your host for this podcast series. Hello and welcome back to the Procurement Magazine podcast. I am your host and editor of Procurement Magazine, Aaron McMillan. Our guest today is a highly experienced procurement leader with over 3 decades at Merck Group, where he built his career from team leader in indirect sourcing to Chief Procurement Officer for electronics. His journey mirrors the evolution of procurement itself, from a tactical function to a strategic driver of business value. He has led global sourcing strategies across complex, innovation-driven sectors, including semiconductors, electronics, and advanced materials. Now, in his role at Susonity, he focuses on procurement transformation, helping organizations modernize their operations through digital technologies, data-driven decision-making, and resilient, sustainable supply chains. Please welcome to the Procurement Magazine podcast, Mathias Grünewald. Hi, Mathias. How's it going?
Hi, Aaron. Thanks for inviting me. It's going good. I like this kind of opportunity to talk to you.
Well, it's perfect. We really like these opportunities too, to kind of have kind of a frank conversation and get to know a little bit more about the leader behind, the person behind the leader, should I say, the person who kind of drives these massive transformations. Would you mind telling me a bit about, how you got into procurement? Was it something you had as a childhood dream, or like so many more, did you kind of fall into the function?
That's a funny question, Aaron. So I can say when I finished my studies, so all my colleagues in the university, they wanted to go to marketing, to HR, to whatever, but nobody wants to go to procurement. I was thinking why, right? And I got an offer from Pirelli, the tire company at this time. So I have to say I was the new generation 30 years ago joining procurement. So all the, let's call them, I don't want to be not respectful, but all the other managers in procurement were people who nobody wants in different functions. And then the scientific assessments on the universities came to the conclusion that procurement is a very important function, and therefore I decided to go. And not just me in my industry, it was overall in the industry, and therefore I was a lucky guy, so to say, joining as a new engaged studied person in the procurement world and making things better. So this was actually more by chance, so to say, not in my genes, so to say, my starting point. And I had the pleasure to really join the procurement journey from what happened in 30 years ago to now, where procurement is a strategic function in mainly all business, what I know, and for sure in Merck and also in Susonity, what I'm now working on, is strongly dependent also on procurement. And also what I can say is, and what I really appreciated, so the typical stuff that there is a supplier and there's a procurement guy in the Lopez times. So I don't know if many people know about Lopez times. This was a procurement officer, CPO in the automotive industry. He pressed the suppliers hardly at this time. And up to now, where we are working on a close collaboration with our vendors, because in our industry, and you mentioned where I have been, we are not buying commodities, so we are buying highly customized chemicals, and for this you need a strong collaboration on the commercial and also on the chemical process side. So you need a deep knowledge what your vendors are doing, how they are doing, and how they can contribute to your business, let's say, effort finally.
I was so interested in finding out the kind of the drive which leaders like yourself have. Like you said, you've been in procurement for about 30 years. Where does that drive come from within yourself to kind of push yourself to continue, pushing yourself to be better, to understand more, to really kind of keep procurement at the top table where it's landed now?
I can say the world in procurement is a very diverse world, and you need to be a person who likes relationships. So, because we have relationships to our vendors, we have relationships to our internal stakeholders, we need relationships to R&D, to the innovation of the company. We have to also need our relationship to the finance, because one thing is forgiven: procurement is always kind of measured by savings. Yeah, that is like it or dislike it. Finally, the financial contribution counts. So that means you are the conductor of a symphony in front of you of many different kind of, let's say, interests, and this was actually my motivation on the one side. And then when I climbed up more and more in the management, I can say what also always motivated me is the collaboration with my people, with my team. So I had always the intention to be a strong leader to my team, that they know what they have with me, that they know I'm protecting them and I'm encouraging them to take also risks, because without taking risks you cannot be successful at least not in nowadays, right? So that means with that, I grew up in the leadership, and my people and the feedback what I got kind of proof that I have the right motivation to do that. And this was also the reason why actually I could have stepped out after my 33 years in Merck, and I was asked to continue with Susonity. Maybe we can come to this topic a little bit later in this talk. I decided for myself to stay, and at least my people are happy that I'm here. That's what they told me.
I'm sure they are. The way you speak about the function and the way that you operate is a very personable, kind of approachable, almost like an open door policy. A lot of time procurement kind of gets branded as this kind of closed door, naysayers, red tape wielding group of people. Do you think that's unfair?
I think this is a cliche kind of that people has when they talk to procurement. So I think it came from the history a little bit. So procurement guys were always kind of, people were thinking we are the ones who are always smart people with tricky things in behind, with not very serious lying here and there. This was a little bit the rumor what we are having, but actually this is, everything of this is wrong, right? So I think in the modern times where we are in, so procurement needs to have people with a management approach, and being fair and reliable. Otherwise, and this is also my personal experience, the entire world will not take you very serious, right? So and if you start talking to the third parties, to the vendors, so everybody knows your role, right? And people are observing you. Are you now playing the role good or bad? And if you are not authentic, and if you are not fair, you will not be successful at the end. And short-term success does not help. Yeah, it's always long-term what we are doing.
This podcast is in partnership with Amazon Business. Amazon Business is your one-stop destination for everything your organization needs. Think of it as the Amazon you already know and love, but specifically re-engineered for the way you work. Amazon Business gives you access to business-only pricing on millions of items and quantity discounts that scale with your growth. It's about spending less time bogged down in those manual tasks and more time on what really matters. So head over to Amazon Business and make the power of Amazon work for you.
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind kind of taking us back to the kind of start of your journey. As mentioned, you've been in procurement now for around 30 years. What was the biggest rookie mistake you made kind of early on, and how has that kind of shaped you into the leader you are today?
The biggest mistake I did, I would say, hard to think about, but I would say, when I grew up this leadership ladder, it was hard for me to delegate in the beginning, right? So to rely on your people and to get trust on them, right? And as broader your responsible is getting, when you climb up, you are no longer available for operational things, even if you think you can do it better. And this was what I did at this time. I thought I can do some things better than one or the other of my people. This is now 20 years ago, yeah, or 50, not 20 years, I would say. I tried to do it and I did it, but I lost other things. I lost the broad view on the strategic direction, what I should have given. And this was really a big mistake. And for all people who are climbing up, they have to learn to trust other people. They have to learn to delegate things. And delegation, this is a typical frame what everybody is using, but delegation means you give responsibility to your people. That means they are the decision makers. And finally, I end up in my team when I gave them the decision making rights. And as a consequence, but this is what leadership is about, all the bad things end on my table. Only the escalations ended on my table. The good things, I gave it to my people, and the escalation cases ended on my table, and I had to deal with that. And what I did, actually, right? And I always try to protect my organization and to put away the rocks in front, to make them work and to make them to give them a let's say comfortable environment for working. And this is the price what you have to pay for a hierarchy step up. And finally, I have to say, what is the key? It is the motivation, right? You cannot motivate a team by KPIs, by processes, by controlling, right? You can motivate the people that you share your vision, your empathy for the final target of the company, for sure. And if you can do this, then you are a good leader. This is a little bit generic what I'm saying. I think this is true for every function, not only for procurement, for sure.
I think there is a lot of, when people kind of first moving up into management positions, that idea of delegating, I think, is something that people really struggle with. How did you kind of get over that idea of, thinking from changing to being like, feeling like you're telling someone else to do your job, to you're leading this team, you're pushing it forward, you're kind of making sure everyone's pushing towards the same objective? How did you kind of go over that?
I think I always, I have a very simple logic for myself. I lead my team as I personally want to get leaded by my boss. That's very simple. So, and I'm always thinking about, if my boss would ask me this question, what I'm now asking my direct report, would I like it or not? Yeah. And I can tell you, when you do this kind of logic, you come easily to the conclusion, many questions, what you have in your mind, or what is close to your mouth, you would say, no, I shouldn't raise that question, because this is a kind of micromanagement is also a broad term, right? Or this is a signal of mistrust, yeah? And not to think this is not of interest. So the interest must be always there, and the interest, you have to have an open ear and eye for your people, and if they want to speak and explain something to you, you should have the time and also the motivation to follow and to understand what they have in mind. Yeah.
So we need to soundboard the questions we want to ask our team and make sure when we say them aloud, you think, oh, actually, maybe I shouldn't ask that question, phrase it slightly differently. Perfect. So you yourself, you've obviously managed kind of global electronics, semiconductors, huge high stake supply chains, value chains, when a crisis hits and everyone's looking at you for an answer, how do you keep your cool and make a call?
So to say, crisis, when I think about back to the last 8 to 10 years, we had a lot. Unfortunately, currently, as we all know, we have also one. And I feel this is not the last one. So that means in a crisis mode, yeah, for sure you have to share the emergency with your people. This is one thing is for sure. But I'm feeling like a captain on a ship, right? And if the waves are very high and you are running in panic on the bridge and the people think, oh, now we will get sunk. And if you keep cool and if you try to make the people don't let it call it comfortable, maybe to fix their feeling a little bit that the guy in front of you knows where to go and how we can survive. And they will do the best and give the most personal motivation to make it at the end and not to get in a panic mode. A panic and fear is always the worst thing what you have to do. Yeah, in some cases it's not avoidable for sure, but in most of the cases it is, and it's a question of leadership.
And, how would you recommend people who may be stepping up for the first time, maybe handling their first crisis? Like you said, the next crisis is just around the corner. For those in those first scenarios, what would kind of be your top tips to kind of handle the pressure when first stepping up?
I would say the first step is always to analyze it seriously and not to get, it's hard and not easy, I know, but not to be emotional behind in a crisis mode. So analyze the data, analyze what you need and what can happen, and then try to prepare yourself for the unknown in a way, right? So that means you have to have different scenarios in your head. What can happen if it's getting even worse, right? And for this case, try to protect, increase the safety stock, intensify supplier relationships, make your people relaxed, get all the data what you need to confirm also your management that you have it under control, what is not always possible, right? And if something is exploding, it's exploding. You can't do anything against it. But for I would say 70% of the cases, you can find your personal strategy to protect yourself and your organization alive finally.
You've throughout your career been very vocal about your sport and the importance on sustainability. Was there a specific moment in your career where to you sustainability became more than just a checkbox?
Actually, it is more than just a checkbox, because this has two views, right? The personal one, you see the climate change, you see the consequences and what's happening in the world because of this. This is the one thing, and the other thing is that we have clear targets in the European Union and also in the companies where I'm working in. And for these targets, you need to do some things, and you have to stand behind. For sure, it is not always the highest priority because the crisis things are becoming very important, and then some people have the tendency to put it on priority too, but this should not be the case, because without sustainability we will not alive, and this should be clear for all of us. On the other side, it should not end in a bureaucratic monster, right? So that means we all should have an idea what to do to make it more sustainable, to get rid of the CO2 emissions in the world, to protect the climate. But filling out hundreds of thousands of documents does not necessarily help. Yeah.
You obviously reached the top of the Merck Group, you know, in this new job at Susonity. You know, what was it about this new role that kind of brought you into it? What excites you about it? What is it about kind of focusing on digital transformations that you enjoy so much?
I can say when I decided to step out in Merck, this was the main decision driver was I had so many good young people in my organization. They all wanted to step up and I would give somebody the chance. So, and therefore for me, it was clear I want to step out, and Merck supported me here, I have to say. But then the Merck sold one of our businesses called Surface Solutions at this time to a Chinese investor, GNMI Group, and we founded the Susonity company. And that's where I'm in now. And they asked me to support this carve out. And then I supported the carve out, and then I saw, oh, I could play a very supportive role in making Susonity as a standalone company within the GNMI group. And this is what, from my point of view, I like the challenge on the one thing, and on the other thing, I like all the people because most of them were former Merck people, and therefore I in combination, and I feel okay. So I decided to continue, and also the challenge to work for a Chinese company and not for a, let's say, traditional German European company. I never had this experience before, but now I have it. And this is a big change, I can say. This is a very big change. And this is a challenge for me, and I like that experience.
What do you enjoy so much about the challenge?
A different culture. So it's a different culture of management, and this is a major challenge. Yeah, so I would say so. I had for sure in my former role global suppliers also in China, in India, and wherever in the world. And I knew a little bit the culture of these people, but it's a very big difference having a Chinese management or having a Chinese supplier. That's a very big difference. It's far away from each other. And to get the experience of a completely different management style, and also the culture aspect on this was for me something challenging. Maybe if other people who are changing the companies every 5 years, they know it better than me because I was more than 30 years in Merck, and so I was a little bit the Merck direction in my view, right? And I haven't seen so much different things, but now I have. So, and this was some of the experience in my life what I would like to take with me before I completely retire.
Was there any points where you thought, well, this challenge is too much, or are you someone who just enjoy kind of throwing yourself at it and just giving your all?
It is. I wouldn't call it enjoy, you know. The biggest difference is the speed behind. Yeah, if as a European, typical German, even so global company as Merck, everything is organized and we have processes for everything. We have steering boards here and there, and everything takes a long time. Yeah? And here. Now in Susonity with the GNMI group behind in the Chinese management, we have nothing, right? And we can do what we think is right to do, and we have to be very fast. And when I had to ask in my former job 3 functions before I can decide something. Now I have to decide it by myself, and on the other side, I'm fully responsible for the result. So that is no sharing of responsibility what big groups normally have with various processes. Here it is not. There's only me for procurement. Full stop. Nobody else. I cannot protect myself because I can say, oh, this guy has also signed it, or this guy has signed it. So I can't do that. Yeah.
Knowing that you're facing those kind of challenges, it'd be interesting to find out your answer to this question. So, on the Procurement Magazine podcast, we like to get our leaders asking questions to one another. And our last speaker, sorry, Mubab Chowdhury, he's posed this question to you. He said, what is the global challenge you are facing in your procurement and supply chain operation, and how are you mitigating this?
So besides the geopolitical things, what we all know, so customs here and war there and all that, I wouldn't face that now. But I would say the global challenge, what I see is the artificial intelligence way, how that will change our working environment. And I would say with that, so everybody's saying, I'm using AI here or there, and that's nice. But I'm thinking much further. I think this will completely change our working style in the future, and to find a vision, and let's say, I wouldn't call it a strategy, but at least a vision how to deal with that. This I think is the biggest challenge. And how do I deal with that? I try to learn. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to learn about the opportunities what AI is given to us, and I try to understand tools where AI can kind of support us completely in the operational part of procurement, at least at the moment, maybe in the strategic one later. So that's my way of dealing with that for the time being.
It's a really interesting insight. So thank you, Mathias. And I would like to give you the opportunity. You can ask our next guest any question you like at all, anything.
Okay, so then I asked the question, dear next guest. I would like to understand how you are dealing with different cultures, if you have experience in your working environment. Different cultures could mean different management. Maybe it must not be China for sure. It could be also Korea or US or also other countries independently from the country behind. This would be an interesting insights how people deal with that.
I agree. I think one of the most interesting things, speaking to so many leaders, is learning about their culture and how they operate, and it's really useful insight. So thank you for setting that one up. So we're almost out of time, but just before I let you go, we have got kind of 3 quick fire questions to end on. So I want you to kind of say the first thing that comes to mind, just rapid fire. So the first one is, what's the most exciting thing about the future of procurement?
The people. I hope this will be continuing a people relationship business or function.
What is one thing people still get wrong about procurement?
We are the smartest ones and always the bad guys with the biggest question for a discount.
And finally, what is a piece of technology we rely on now, which will be obsolete in a year?
Well, that's a good question. A car, or we don't need to go to our offices anymore sooner or later. So home office is now actually the case, but maybe in 10 years from now, the question is, do some people need offices or cars?
I think it's an interesting one to evolve. I think we're living in these kind of unprecedented times of evolution. It's certainly going to be so fascinating to see where we evolve as a species. But Mathias, unfortunately, we are all out of time. I just want to thank you again so much for joining me and providing your insights. It was really insightful. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
No problem. And thank you very much for tuning into this episode of the Procurement Magazine podcast. Be sure to tune in next time for another insightful episode. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.